Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In this video, we're going to be discussing my 5 favorite beginner professions for 2022, or patch 9.2. So what I've done for this video is I'm strictly going to be talking about crafting professions. So automatically, herbalism, skinning, and mining will not be considered for this list, as I'm mainly talking about crafting professions. But I have personally picked my top 5 professions, giving some pros and cons to each one, and hopefully if you're a beginner who's trying to see which profession should work best for you, this will help you to decide. Now, as always, with gold making, every single server is different, so yes, I am listing out 5 professions. However, the number 1 or the number 3 on this list might not be profitable on your server. So always check prices before you fully commit, and just keep in mind with an open mind that not all profits are going to look the same. So the first one on this list is actually going to be an honorable mention before the actual tier list, and that is cooking. The reason for that is that it's technically a secondary profession, like fishing and archaeology, so it doesn't take up one of your 2 primary profession slots. So basically, there's really no excuse on not learning it. Also, it's very cheap to level up, and all the crafts are relatively cheap as well. The only downside is that on a lot of servers, the profit margins can be slim. However, if you find out that your server's one of the good ones, definitely highly recommend. But moving on, we have number 5 out of this list, which is alchemy. Now for each of these, I'm going to list the pros first and then give some cons. So the reason alchemy is number 5 on this list is that the sales are very easy to get. Everybody uses potions, whether you're a raider, PvPer, or Mythic Plus player, and generally some people want potions like healing potions and stuff if they're out in the world. And this is just a great profession if you want a ton of sales. In one night, you can sell hundreds of potions, especially on a reset day. Also, like I said, you're selling these mass amount of potions, so profitability is very good. Now, yes, each potion might only profit 10 to 15 gold. However, sell 200 of those in one night of one single potion. That adds up very quickly. Also, it's relatively simple and does not require any extra reputation. So all you have to do is level the original profession up, and then you are good to go. Now, the cons for alchemy is that generally it's the most expensive profession to level up. Now, when I mean most expensive, I'm probably talking like 20k, 25k max. For any of these professions in Shadowlands, it should only cost around 15 to 20k, of course, unless your prices are highly inflated. So it's on the more expensive side, but it should be doable for most. Another con is that this one is very popular among starting people. So, there's a lot of variability with herb prices, with constantly going up and down, and most likely some potions will just not have good margins or will be in the negative red. Basically, there's not really any in between. You're either on a server that has a ton of negative profit or some really good profit. So it's a very popular one, so a lot of people are competitive in this market, and depending on your server, there might just not be any profit. So definitely make sure you look out to see herb prices and your potion prices, but overall, I do recommend. Moving on, the 4th one is Inscription. Now, the reason why I have Inscription not higher on this list is because of the cons, which we'll get to in just a second. And so the pros of this profession is that it plays into the legendary market. So if you're a beginner, whether you've been gold making for a few days, gold making for a few hours, you have probably heard about legendaries and the legendary market within Shadowlands. And so, of course, legendaries require a ton of gold to get into. That is a whole separate thing. But if you're buying a legendary and you're crafting a legendary from scratch as like an actual player, not a gold maker, you also need missives to accompany that item. So if somebody buys a brand new legendary for a new slot and they're crafting it, they need 2 missives to pair with that legendary. So generally, for example, I sell legendaries and missives, so a lot of times somebody will buy one of my legendaries, and then 2 missives kind of get sold either right before or right after it. So it's a great way to indirectly be in the LEGO market, and you just have a ton of potential sales. Now the cons about this one, which once again kind of moves it down on this list, is that it takes a ton of time to craft. Like, there is a very long process you have to go through. You have to buy herbs, then you have to mill the herbs into pigment, then you have to craft those pigment into inks, and then finally those inks into your final product. So there's a ton of AFK crafting involved. However, if you have a ton of time in the day, whether that's you have to go walk your dog, or you're at work and you can be working from home, or you're gonna go eat dinner, any type of break within the day that you're able to AFK craft, that's perfect. But that's one of the biggest cons. Another con is that setting it up can be a little bit challenging. So unlike other professions where TSM can just automatically calculate profit, TSM has issues with calculating inscription profits. The reason for that is that it goes based on RNG, so I highly recommend, which I will leave in the description, a guide in order to set up those profits correctly. So yes, that's only additional like 20 minutes of work, and once you have it, you're good to go forever, but it's just a little bit extra work, which I'm going to put that in the cons. Moving on, we have number 3, which is tailoring. Now, this is going to be one out of the 2 actual armor professions on this list, and the reason that it is not beating the other armor profession is because it just does not have as much variety. So the pros of this is that it is very, very cheap. So mainly, if you are crafting tailoring items, you're using shrouded cloth. Some of the higher stuff might use lightless silk, and generally those are a lot cheaper than, let's say, ores or like the heavy desolate stuff like that. So it is definitely the cheapest armor profession, and also there is a little bit of variety. So just off the bat, without any reputation needed, you have the ability to craft bags, which, as long as they are profitable, you can sell a ton of them. They go by very, very fast. And then you also have the crafter's marks, specifically the novice gear, which also does very well. Of course, if you have reputation, you can look into the other crafter's marks as well. Now, the cons of this profession is that it doesn't have as much variety as other ones. We're going to be talking about leatherworking in a little bit, and you will see that leatherworking has a ton of different options compared to tailoring, which just has, bags and gear. So there's a lot more variety in other armor professions. Another con is that if bags are unprofitable, which on some servers they truly are, and you don't have any use for legendaries and don't plan on actually making legendaries, then this profession is pretty weak. All you can really do without reputation is craft the novice gear, and it's just not very good at that point. So it does really depend on your server, and we're going to move on to number 2. Which number 2 is enchanting. Now, a lot of you are going to be surprised because the last time that I did this video last year, I put enchanting as number 1. However, I do have to say that there are some cons to this profession, so that is why it's taking the number 2 slot this time around. And so the pros of this is that, yet again, it is a very cheap profession, does not require a ton to level up, and the crafting mats are very simple. There's basically 3 items that you have to buy to craft anything in the list, and generally they are pretty cheap. Another pro is kind of similar to alchemy. There are a ton of sales. Every single time somebody gets a new piece of armor, and let's say every single time somebody gets like an upgraded chest piece, they have to buy a new chest enchant, a new piece of weapon, a new weapon enchant, etc. So enchants are kind of always selling because people are always getting new upgrades, and it's just a great profession to have. The last pro is that you also are able to craft the enchanted mats, which is a nice solid flip for the people who are doing legendaries and don't really want to do it themselves. You can sell those enchanted materials for a profit. So the one con and the major con of enchanting is that you are not able to AFK craft. What I mean by this is normally, let's say you want to craft 100 bags or 200 potions, let's just use 200 potions, then you are able to hit, craft all, and then it will come up with a timer, and it generally takes about 6 minutes and 20 seconds to craft 200 potions, so you can leave your computer, come back in 6 minutes, and they will be good to go. However, for enchanting, you actually have to click the button every single time you want to enchant, or of course you can use like the mouse scroll wheel as well. So that is the biggest con with enchanting. Now this does not pertain to the enchanted materials. However, the actual enchants themselves, you do have to click. So the fact you can't AFK it is a little bit annoying. Then finally, the number 1 slot is another armor profession, and I kind of already spoiled it earlier, but we have leatherworking. Now, the main reason why I picked leatherworking is because of the ton of variety, and if you take the one extra step to get reputation, it can be even better. So what I mean by this is similar to tailoring, you have novice gear, and of course all the other crafter's marks as well. You have the drums, which not only is great for current content, it's also great for the mage tower, which is now permanent. You also have the normal armor kits and then the heavy desolate armor kits, which yet again, you need honored reputation for the heavy version. And then you even have the leather bardings, which are a great mount equipment piece that is cheap to make and easy to sell. And that is just the main items of this profession. There's still a ton that you can get and unlock. So there is a ton of variety, and as you know, if you listen to a lot of gold makers or myself, I always say diversity is key. It's way better to have 10 of 10 items instead of 100 of a single item. So the fact that this one profession can give you so much volume of different types of items is great. Now, the only con of this profession is that it can be a tad expensive at times. So definitely, if you're getting into the more expensive crafts, you need a lot of heavy leather, and that can be costly. However, you always are, of course, going to get a profitable return, so you might have to just start out crafting a few, might not craft a whole stack, craft a little bit, whatever you can afford, and then kind of move up whenever you make more gold. That's really the only con that I can think of with leatherworking, is that it's just a tad bit expensive. But that is basically my list for currently 9.2 or 2022. Those are my favorite professions. So hopefully if you're somebody who's trying to prioritize or looking into getting a new profession, hopefully this can guide you into the right direction. But as always, if you guys enjoyed, I would love if you could like the video and potentially even subscribe if you want to see more content. I upload twice a week. But thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, have a good day.